exciting to see such a large crowd today. We do have a busy agenda. Thank everyone for coming. The weather has cooperated for the most part of the county, and the county crew is, Brian and his staff are doing a fantastic job to get everyone out to where we have to go to. Thank you, Brian, through the holidays. And I know you didn't do anything, but I know I'm Brian, that Mitch has reported it's still quite nasty over at Amberley down to Goderich along the shoreline, and I think we're still waiting on a few people from Kincardine that they've arrived. Okay, excellent. So everyone's here safe and sound, and I hope everyone had an enjoyable time through the holidays. So the first item on the agenda is the roll call. Darlene, I'm sorry. Donna.
Councillor Buckle. Councillor Eadie. Warden Eagleson. Councillor Ingalls. Councillor Jackson. Councillor McKeever. Councillor Smith. Councillor Toolen.
Next item, I need to remind everyone it's our own responsibility to disclose any pecuniary interest that we may have on today's agenda. We can do so if and when the matter arises. Hearing none at this time, we'll move on to the confirmation of the council minutes.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Ingalls and seconded by Councillor Buckle that the minutes of the December 7th and 21st, 2017 council sessions be adopted as circulated.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. Communications, Donna. Nothing further on communications. So I believe that takes us to delegations then. And correct? Better check, you know, we've got to be careful. That, so this morning we're very pleased to have Sarah's here, and Dr. Greg, is that correct?
Yes.
And so welcome to Bruce County, and I think there's a button to push to get that mic. Come on. Yeah, you got it on.
Yeah,
that's
it's on.
Good. So we look forward to your presentation.
My name is Megan, Dr. Megan Gregg. I'm a family doctor at Wiarton at South Bruce Peninsula, a family health organization. I work at the hospital in Wiarton. And we're part of, we'd like to speak about collective response to the opiate crisis in our region. So we're part of, we flip like that? Yeah. We're part of the Community Drug and Alcohol Strategy group. We're a network of community partners working together to shift attitudes, improve policies, and change systems in support of reducing substance-related harms in Bruce and Grey. We have a few goals for today. We want to increase awareness amongst leaders in the community of the opiate crisis and the impact of this crisis on our communities. I'd like to discuss and understand some approaches to addressing the crisis and encourage some dialogue among community leaders and the role that we can all play in addressing the crisis. So we may know this already. What is an opiate? Opiate is a drug. It's a substance with effects for pain control similar to opium. So for pain, sedation, it acts on opiate receptors in the body, and it's a very strong painkiller. There's little evidence of benefit for long-term use of opiates, and there is evidence of harm from long-term use. And there are serious warnings and harms that come from long-term opiate use, addiction, effect on breathing, accidental exposure, and exposure in pregnancy leading to neonatal abstinence at delivery and to death. So the stat there is pretty impactful. One person dies every 10 hours in Ontario as a result of an opiate overdose. This is a little bit small to see perhaps, but the graphs speak to deaths in Ontario from opiates. 80% of people entering a treatment program for opiate abuse were first exposed to an opiate through a prescription. In young people 25 to 34 years of age, 1 out of every deaths from all causes is from opiates. Fentanyl is an opiate drug, and it's the leading cause of opiate deaths in Ontario, hydromorphone being second. And for 2016, the most up-to-date data we have shows 865 deaths related from opiates in Ontario. The graph, the top line showing emergency department visits, the middle line is hospitalizations, admissions to hospital, and the bottom line is showing deaths per year. And the vertical axis is showing number of cases of opiate harm or death. So you can see that the numbers are certainly trending upwards from 2003 on the far left side to 2016 on the right side. When we talk about deaths, it's only part of the story. At the top of this pyramid, for every death related to an opiate, there's estimated 10 hospitalizations, 32 visits to an emergency department, 130 visits to a family doctor or to a primary care provider for problematic use, and over 800 exposures that are estimated not to come to medical attention. So how did we get to this problem when you see it's increased over the last 15 years? There are certainly gaps in care and treatment programs for opiate use disorders and other drug-related disorders do have some gaps in funding and could be more robust if there was more funding. There is a lack of education amongst prescribers and the public in general about the risks versus benefits. There's certainly stigma and shame related to addictions and opiate use disorders, and some perception of it being a life choice, and therefore hesitancy to seek help. You see lots in the media talking about marketing from drug companies of chronic opiates for pain control over the last 20 years, and certainly that's played a role. This graph shows for our region emergency department visits for opiate overdoses, and it's public health unit data. And so for Grey Bruce, we fall towards the upper middle of a frequency for visits compared to the rest of the province. I'll hand over to Sarah.
Thanks. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the data, but we know the problem of opioid-related harms is big, complex, and worsening, and the solutions need to be comprehensive, timely, and evaluated. What can and should we do? Some strategies we can employ are health promotion to increase individual and community health capacity, pursuing a culture change to adopt a harm reduction approach, and engage in dialogue, involve people in conversations geared to better understanding, so involving people with lived experience. Harm reduction is a strategy that has a goal to reduce deaths and harms. Examples of harm reduction strategies include needle exchange programs, naloxone, which is an antidote for an opioid overdose, looking at substitution therapies such as methadone and Suboxone, and including supervised consumption sites. So harm reduction is respecting people's choices, but keeping them safe at the same time. What's already happening in Grey and Bruce? There's lots actually already happening. As Dr. Grigg said, there's a community alcohol and drug strategy that is supported by local county councils, both Grey and Bruce. There's an opioid working group that looks specifically at the issue of opioids. There's a rapid access addiction medicine clinic that sees people with substance use disorders in a timely fashion, stabilizes them and returns them to their care of their local family physician. The government in June announced an expanded naloxone program whereby agencies can distribute naloxone to high-risk clients. There are 15 needle exchange sites in Grey and Bruce counties, 5 new in 2017, the newest being a site that opened in December, at the end of December in Sauble Beach. And we've done some awareness events. We did an overdose awareness barbecue. As you may have seen in December, there was a medication return campaign where you could return some unused medications and get some hockey tickets. And we know that 59% of youth who use opioids first get them from their parents' medicine cabinet. So it's really an important strategy to return some of those medications that are just sitting around. We've also done municipal presentations. We've done 11 municipal presentations, as well as Grey County Council and now here in Bruce. So some of the next steps that we're hoping to take is to provide schools with up-to-date information to share with parents, teachers, and students. Increase our community monitoring and surveillance system for overdoses and deaths. Develop a plan if we had an overdose, a surge in overdoses, how would we respond as a network? Continue to advocate for funding for addiction and mental health services, and involve clients with lived experience in the discussion. What role can community leaders play? So we can understand the opioid crisis as an indicator of overall community health. Continue to consider a health and health policies approach when you're looking at policies at a county level. And avoid stigmatizing people who use opioids during conversations. They can be our family, our friends, and our neighbors. Could also look, oh, sorry. There's no war on drugs because you can't war on something that's inanimate. We could look at the role of community leaders and consider what supports are available to those most vulnerable, such as affordable housing, nutritious food, transportation, childcare, and education programs. And just remember that these are people that are suffering with a medical condition, and support them under that rather than looking at it as a criminal issue. And that's what we have. Do people have any questions?
No, yeah, I'm making too much noise. How closely does the committee or those involved work with the police, the OPP and local police forces?
They're represented both on the opioid working group. We have OPP and local police services, and on the community drug and alcohol strategy, they have both as well. So they're quite involved, and they've been great partners in supporting awareness on what's going on in the ground in their drug enforcement units, but also looking at prevention upstream about how to help people as well.
Any other questions? Comments?
Can I just take a
Yeah.
I just want to take a minute. My name's Allison Govier. I'm the coordinator of the Community Drug and Alcohol Strategy, and I just want to take a minute to thank Bruce County for their support over the years, and especially in the past year as we've expanded our mandate to include all drugs. Previously, we were the task force on crystal meth. This funding that's provided by Bruce County has been leveraged to collaboratively work with the health unit on the opioid crisis. So I think that it's been a really valuable use of funds. We have been praised by Ministry of Health representatives for being able to sort of be ahead of the curve and bring all of the relevant stakeholders to the table to address the opioid crisis collectively in a rural area, which requires a little bit more back and forth and developing local best practices that are unique to the needs here in Grey and Bruce County. We can't necessarily pull from what Toronto is doing, for example. So we've been very connected with a network of drug strategies across Ontario. There's, I think, over 25 different drug strategies. So moving from the crystal meth task force to a drug strategy helps us align with similar work that's being done across the province. So I just want to thank you for your support and your interest, and we will continue to update you with progress and impact on the ground.
Just when you mentioned drug strategies, is one of the strategies where a person that was struggling with an addiction to opioids go somewhere like a hospital or a residence where they gradually ramp down their use, and how common is that, and where do people go?
So there's different strategies for different drugs, and there's research always evolving about what are the best outcomes for how to treat different drugs and substance addictions. So there are what we call inpatient programs, treatment programs where you, and there are outpatient programs where you're using treatments at home. For inpatient, if somebody is in the early days or hours of stopping using a substance, they'll have withdrawal symptoms. So there's, in Owen Sound, the withdrawal management services, so a building that's supported with staff who work there 24 hours, helping people through early withdrawals from stopping using a substance, alcohol, or a different drug. And then, so that inpatient program is available in the region. From there, people will sometimes look to a longer inpatient treatment program, so where you're not physically withdrawing from a substance, but you're looking at the longer term habits and coping strategies. So those would be some longer term treatment programs that, they're inpatient, where you go to a physical building and stay, and then lots that are outpatient where you're at home and you have supports. There are, for opiates specifically, outpatient treatments, looking at the drug side of it, the physical, chemical side of it, and the coping and psychosocial supports, so that there are supports in the region to have counseling and coaching to help stay away from using and to look at the root causes and address those causes. And then there are also drugs, medications to take to try and help take away some cravings and make it easier to stay away from using for a period while life stabilizes and those other supports get built back up. So that's where we talked about Suboxone is buprenorphine, naloxone is one drug, and methadone is another name people might have heard of as well, for opiates specifically. Yeah.
One more question, and how many addictions would start with like physical pain, like they're experiencing severe physical pain? Do you have any idea of that percentage?
I'll let you guys jump in as well. There are, for chronic, a chronic non-cancer pain, somebody that doesn't have cancer that has a chronic pain that's there for a long time, into the mid-90s, there was more clinical practice change to say, well, maybe long-term opiates where you take one every 12 hours and you have some opiate in your system all the time can try to help with pain. And so that became more common practice into the late 90s. And since then, as you saw in the graphs, we've seen the harms rise over the last 15, 20 years from that. So the harms are being more well recognized. The risk of addiction from somebody taking a chronic opiate like that have been, there are estimates as high as 30 to 50%, right? Almost everybody who takes an opiate that way will have a physical dependence, right? Kind of like if you take a blood pressure medicine. If you stop taking your blood pressure medicine, your blood pressure is going to skyrocket, right? Same thing with these opiates or smoking cigarettes. If you are used to it, your body gets used to it. If you stop something all of a sudden, you're going to have withdrawal reaction to it. So there's tolerance to lots of medicines. So if you're stopping a medicine, for many medicines, you should slowly wean off. So those numbers of physical tolerance are much higher, but the idea of addiction where your life is kind of being derailed and the focus of your life is now much more around a medication and how to make sure it's there, those stats are above 30% for chronic opiates.
And I'll just add one point about the rapid addiction medicine clinic that's in Owen Sound. Owen Sound was one of 7 pilot sites across the province to develop or to initiate, it's called a RAM clinic, I guess. And this is where someone could go to get medication and sort of wraparound supports for opioid and alcohol dependence. And so that was, I think, 2 years ago that the pilot was launched, and the clinic continues, and I believe they've just received, so the funding comes through Grey Bruce Health Services, and they've just received additional funding to hire more staff to expand that program to rural areas. So Dr. Grigg has been working with the RAM clinic to adapt the model in Wyerton, and with the new staffing and new funding, Grey Bruce Health Services will be looking at how to expand access to the medication and the supports across both counties.
Anything further? Allison, as a member of what was the Grey Bruce Crystal Meth Task Force, where that was formed several years ago as a request, I guess, from Mayor Kathy Maskell, because recognizing that crystal meth was a serious problem in Chesley and Hanover. And we've came a long way since then, and crystal meth really isn't our biggest object or our biggest problem. It's still there, but it's not what it was that your Oxycontins have taken over. But the rebranding and the renaming of that task force, which was pretty much Christine McDonald's idea, she was the one that prompted that. But it was more or less to recognize as well the serious issue we have with opioids, but to recognize in Grey and Bruce the serious issue we have with alcohol. You willing to comment on that at all, or Christine?
I can start. So if you look at the emergency room data from across Grey and Bruce County, emergency room visits have increased by 65% since 2002, and over half of those are alcohol related, followed by opioids. And so when we look at harms and we look at healthcare utilization, alcohol is definitely up there. Alcohol is a drug. We chose to go with the community drug and alcohol strategy just because we felt that alcohol does need to be front and center. It is a drug. Maybe in the future we'll just be calling it the drug strategy, and it will be understood that alcohol is part of that. But we just really did want to increase awareness about the harms associated with heavy drinking, and which is higher locally, especially among middle-aged men here compared to the provincial average. Do you want to add anything, Christine?
No, thanks, Allison. That's great. And I honestly can't take credit. The change in the branding of the committee was really a group effort that involved all the partners and stakeholders. So there really is a great bunch of people working together on this issue in a collaborative way. So thank you for your presentation, ladies.
Okay, if there's any other questions, if not at this time, thanks very, very much for finding your way in this cold, cold winter morning to walk. That was a very informative presentation, and I want to wish you and your group, Allison and Doctor, a very successful 2018, and keep up the good work. So the next presentation is with Ontario Pan. We have some folks here, and we'd ask you to, Lise? Excellent. Because I thought there was a few changes in some names of some folks that were going to get here today, so thank you for coming, and we look forward to your presentation, and I guess we'll follow after your presentation and maybe receive some questions or comments.
Excellent. Thank you, Your Worship and Councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to present an update today from Ontario Power Generation. So just to recap, my name is Lise Morton, and I'm the Vice President of Nuclear Waste Management Division and responsible for the operations at the Western Waste Management Facility at the Bruce Power site. And with me today, I've also got Fred Kuntz, our Manager of Corporate Communications, and I believe many of you know Fred. And then to his right, I've also got Mark Billington. He's currently our Manager of Work Management. He's been at the Waste site and at the Bruce site for almost 28 years, a local resident here in Brockton, and certainly very knowledgeable about our operations, and maybe he'll be the one doing the next update. So we'll just cover a few topics today. First, an update on our Western Waste Management Facility, another update on our Deep Geologic Repository project, and then the nuclear refurbishments and a few other OPG updates. So at the Western Waste Management site, this will be a year of expansion. You may recall that last year we received a 10-year license renewal of our operating license from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, and that license also allowed us to add more storage capacity and to expand the site for continuing operations in order to support the waste from all of the nuclear stations owned and leased by OPG, which includes Bruce Power. And so just for a recap, we transport, process, store the low and intermediate level waste from Pickering, Darlington, and Bruce, and then we also process and store the used fuel from the Bruce reactors. So you can see on the slide a few of the buildings that we're currently working on, some in various stages of design or site preparation and construction. And then we are, and I believe I mentioned this last time I was here, we are also working on the design for a waste processing or sorting building, which will be a big initiative for us. We've been working on a waste sorting pilot project for the last several years. Very important for us to be able to minimize the waste and look for opportunities for diversion of some of that waste, and that's been seeing some great success. In terms of the Deep Geologic Repository project, so you may recall that on August 21st of last year, the Federal Minister of the Environment and Climate Change asked us to update our analysis of the project and incorporate the effects on Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. And her letter indicated that our analysis had to include the results of SON's community process. So we don't have a firm timeline for that process. We do continue to work with SON and have a very respectful and meaningful dialogue with SON. SON itself has said that this may take approximately a year, but again, it is up to the community to determine that timeline. But we do remain engaged with SON, and we believe those discussions are going very well. We continue to maintain that the DGR is the right thing to do. As the Joint Review Panel concluded, it protects the lake and the environment, and it really is the lasting solution for low and intermediate level waste. So while the approvals are certainly taking longer than we originally envisioned, we certainly want to recognize here, and we appreciate the support that we have from the willing host community, Kincardine, as well as all the adjacent municipalities. We really do appreciate your support and your patience as we work through the approval process for this project. So a few words on refurbishment. So the two largest infrastructure projects in Canada are going to be and are the Darlington refurbishment and the Bruce Power major component replacement. So I think that's really important to highlight, that the two largest infrastructure projects in Canada have a significant tie to this area. And in particular with our operation, the Nuclear Waste Management Division, we're heavily involved in both projects. And so we're working quite collaboratively with Bruce Power right now, preparing for the major component replacement. The breaker opens on that in January of 2020. And so we're working with them on schedules, implementation, and what the waste implications will be for that project. In terms of the Darlington refurbishment, just a couple words on that. So again, currently right now, until Bruce Power starts their project, it is currently the largest infrastructure project in Canada. And we are currently halfway through the refurbishment of Unit 2. And it is going very well. It's on time and on budget. And nuclear waste management plays a very critical role in that project in storing the components that come out of the removal of the Darlington station. So our staff engaged in both the transportation of that waste and then the ultimate processing and storage of that waste, and that has been going very well as well for our division. We did a lot of planning ahead of time for that, and of course that planning is working out well, and then we'll be able to use the lessons learned from the Darlington refurbishment and apply those as well to the Bruce Power MCR work that's coming up. So in terms of, again, refurbishments, I'm sure many of you are aware that the province of Ontario released the long-term energy plan for the next 20 years. And this plan really highlights the role of nuclear as a low-cost, reliable, and clean source of energy. And it states that the refurbishments of Darlington and Bruce are important to maintaining that supply of energy. There was another report as well from the Provincial Financial Accountability Office that released a report on the refurbishments, and I won't go into the details, but that report also confirmed that refurbishment is the best option for keeping electricity costs lower in the long run and for protecting the environment. And it certainly spoke in great detail about the economic benefits of the refurbishments at Darlington and Bruce, and of course we're seeing some of that starting to occur here in Bruce County. A few OPG updates. So although the majority of our electricity in Ontario comes from nuclear, OPG owns 66 hydroelectric operations across Ontario. The biggest, of course, that most people would be aware of would be the Beck Station at Niagara. And in 2017, we also opened a new station called Peter Sutherland. It's north of Timmins and south of James Bay. It's quite a large project as well, and it helps to provide power to homes in northeastern Ontario. And it's an example where we're very proud of the relationship that we built with that local First Nation, the Tequah-Tagamu Nation, and they are a full partner in the project. So OPG has a lot of experience having worked with First Nations, and we greatly are quite pleased with the relationship that we build with First Nations. It's quite a priority for the company. At the bottom of the slide there, you'll also see some information and you may be aware that the Ontario Energy Board is considering a rate application by OPG. So we put forward a rate application decision in the latter part of 2017. And so the Ontario Energy Board is now considering that rate application. And it's a two-part decision. So you may have heard that some of that has been decided. So there's been some media about this. So in December, the board approved the recovery of the Darlington refurbishment costs and the continued operations of Pickering beyond 2020. And then the second stage of the decision will be on the rate itself, and that will likely come in the first quarter of this year. So just to recap, OPG is the only electricity generator in Ontario whose rates are subject to public review and public hearings. And our rates continue to be 40% less than other generators, and we don't expect that to change as a result of any rate decision this year. So that's short update, and I will certainly open it up to any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Anne, go ahead.
I'd just like to thank you for your presentation as Mayor of the Municipality of Kincardine. I try and keep up on OPG's activities, and I always learn something from your presentations. So that's the 40% lower than that of other generators. So what the other generators, so you have hydroelectricity, and how does it compare? I always thought it was maybe one of the lower generators. So I'm just, if you go through them, where do the other generators stand in costs?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of OPG, the rate that we would recover covers both of our nuclear and hydroelectric facilities. So it's a combined rate, if you will. It takes into account all of our operations across the board. So when we talk about other generators, so it's a comparison between those that are actually, I'm going to say, putting power into the grid. And so there are other generators across the province, some of which would be renewables that we're certainly aware of as well in this area. So it's really a comparison between that and other generators, again, that are putting power into the grid. But it's not a comparison necessarily between hydroelectric and nuclear, although of course we have that breakdown too. I don't have it top of mind. But.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on OPG when you're here? Very good. Well, thank you very, very much for your presentation, and look forward, I'm sure you'll be back.
I will be back, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me okay? Your Honor and County Council and staff, I heard a lot about collaboration and partnership today, and this is another evidence of partnership. We've been working over the last 3 years with the county, and today we're here to recognize and present certificates to a group of managing and leading in our municipal environment and our Bridges to Leadership program. And this collaboration cannot be done alone. It's not done in a vacuum. And I want to take this time to thank County Council for the support, but also Kelly and all the team that's participated, because it's with that participation, it makes for a program. And it's a two-way street. So we're proud to be partners with this. And today we present certificates. And I'd like to call on Kelly and Your Honor to help. And I have a colleague here, Mark Norman, who is the lead facilitator.
So through you, Mr. Warden, I'll give a few instructions at this intersection of the program. And first off, I invite all of the graduates today from all of the programs to hang around, because we're also doing a special recognition for some key employees who make a difference every day in our world, and it would be very meaningful and impactful if you could stay and enjoy and appreciate their award as well. So the arrangements are that and this is really hard for me because I'm left-handed, so it's completely backwards from the way I would normally run. If we could have everyone come up this way and come around the circle, and then both Chuck O'Malley and Mark Norman will recognize, and I'll hand the certificates to Warden Paul, who will also recognize the individuals, and I'll stand over here because that's where all the certificates are. And once we've completed this, then we'll move through your support, Mr. Warden, into the special staff recognition, once all of that is complete, then we'll have the paparazzi with the photo ops, et cetera, if we can agree to that. So does that work?
Yeah, it sounds excellent. We'll know better when we get through it, how it works.
So shocking, we're going to start with Brian Knox.
Mr. Warden, thank you very much. Special.
Oh, I didn't give instructions on how to leave. Yes. Carry off to the right. Next, Eleanor McEwen. And Stephen Wood. Martin Campbell.
Congratulations, Mark. Good job.
Lou Morris is on leave at the moment and is not in attendance. I'll now call upon Courtney Schultz, please. And Cindy Tanner. Ray Underwood was also on for getting his certificate today, but through you, Mr. Warden, he decided he really needed to focus on the roads for some reason. So, and next up is John Van Delden.
Congratulations, John.
And Nicole Charles. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations, Nicole. Mike Kirkpatrick.
Congratulations, Mike.
Congratulations, Mike. And Paul McGrath. I don't know if and Tori Mardachuk. Congratulations. Manpreet Sangha, who is one of our economic development officers, is on maternity leave, so she will have her certificate mailed to her. And next is Willie Van Klooster. Congratulations. So the next group, we didn't talk a little bit about some of the programs, but the next group that are going to get recognized are individuals who are on a path to a leadership position, and the organization through County Council's guidance really feel it's important to start the knowledge transfer and the education as individuals start to move into leadership roles. So this program, we with Loyalist support, we renamed it and gave it a Bruce flavor, and it's the Bridges to Leadership. And our first individual is Aaron Becker, please. And next is Elissa Dingle Musselman. Jessie Fullerton is also on maternity leave and is unable to attend today, and she will have her certificate given to her. Next up is Erin Hammond. Yeah. Don't have to go on the treadmill today. And Catherine Hook. And Ellen Kerr.
Thank you.
And Tracy Knapp.
Congratulations, Tracy.
And Justin Kramer.
Congratulations, Justin.
Carolyn McKeon. And Carolyn Parks, again, with the weather today, she went out to her car and it was not agreeable, so she could not get here. Imagine at minus 30. So, and Christina Poor. And Grant Robertson.
Congratulations, Grant.
And Ryan Samworth. Millie Six. And Tammy Sorbera, please.
Congratulations.
And Kelly Woodward. That's it for this part of the program, and if I could ask everyone to join me in congratulating the graduates again.
So that takes care of most of the Loyalist college certificates, but we also today are doing some special recognition of some other staff achievements. And Kelly, are you going to comment on those achievements?
And then through you, Mr. Warden, as we did in July, if each individual could come up to receive their certificate and shake your hand.
Shake my hand.
Yeah. And then again, when we conclude, we'll do a recess or a break, if that's okay, to take photos, because I know they all want a picture with you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, would you like me just to get right into? Okay. Yeah. So first up is Jaron Kerr. Jaron is the lead network and infrastructure analyst, and in 2017, Jaron completed an organization-wide upgrade to our technological infrastructure. Really exciting stuff, and which included our server upgrade, in particular hardware upgrades. And as always, he's an individual who consistently contributes to the improvement of our organization in a highly respectful and organized manner. And many of you probably weren't even aware that the technological upgrade had occurred. He did such a good job that many of you weren't aware that it was even happening. So Jaron, if you could please come forward. Do you wish to just...
Hang out here.
Okay. Next up is Nancy Cool. Nancy, you'll notice she's actually receiving 2 awards today. So this particular award is in relation to the work that she has done to tirelessly advance the entire library programming offerings. Her work has facilitated the library services advancing to our clients, particularly our youth population, which I know I can speak with confidence that it's of great importance to County Council. A particular item of interest has also been her work in the area of, yes, robotic development. Who would have thought? And our 2 school boards. So I would call upon Nancy to come forward, and I'm just looking, there we are. Next up is Chris Irvine, the museum graphic and exhibit designer. And Chris's talents and skills, along with his ability to foster positive relationships across the organization, has created an environment of long-standing, exceptional graphic design work, including his participation with the Bruce Brand Committee. Our overall graphic presentation and exhibit design for the museum and across our organization is truly the envy of many in the province, and it's Chris's talent that has given that to us. So please come forward, Chris. I'm getting my work out as well. John Van Delden is next, our Health and Safety Manager. John, over the past 18 months, has been advancing our health and safety program and doing it in a manner that has elevated trust and commitment across the organization toward the importance of health and safety. His most recent contributions have been completing the new lockout tagout program across the organization, facilitating our mental wellness program, and most recently our physical and cognitive job demands analysis. So will you please join me in congratulating John? Nancy Reinhardt, our Income and Employment Supports Manager, is also being recognized today. Recently, Nancy led efforts to streamline our income support work program, which has been beneficial to all of the clients we serve, and advanced the program delivery to be truly seamless. Equally important, Nancy has been serving as a member of the Job Evaluation Committee and was instrumental in the initiative of our pay equity market review that we completed this summer. Please join me in congratulating Nancy. Mike Berberick, our Environmental Services Manager. Where is Mike sitting? I want to make sure. There we are. In 2017, many of us in the room benefited from the renovation to the administration center. It was through Mike's high-quality oversight that the renovation advanced extremely smoothly. Mike is an individual who regularly goes above and beyond in his daily work, truly making our collective workplace a better place to be. So thank you, Mike. If you could please come forward. The final group of employees being recognized are the members of the 150th Committee. I'll read their names out, excuse me, and then have them come forward once I tell you a little bit about what they did. Nancy Cool, Jesse Fullerton, Andrew Beamer, Kevin Predden, Rachel Hepburn, Paul McGrath, and Brenda Saraki. These individuals, really through the leadership of past Warden Ron Oswald, that I should comment on, we were very concerned with past Warden Ron and making sure that he receives special recognition. So he's on the agenda for February, and the committee will be invited back to observe his recognition, because he, on behalf of council, has done an exceptional job, as Warden Eagleson commented yesterday. The 150th Committee completed their year of celebrations with the time capsule event on December 21st. This group of exceptional employees volunteered a year and a half ago to lead the 150th celebrations. Their program that they designed was extensive, and as with any initiative of this magnitude, it had some hurdles and some bumps along the way. And to their individual and collective credit, they all persevered and completed the program. They dealt with weather. Let us all remember the plowing match in Huron County. That probably stands out in particular for Brenda. They dealt with illness. They dealt with many unexpected hiccups and challenges, and to their credit, they always maintained a positive outlook and a true commitment to the ultimate goal, which was to celebrate 150 years of Bruce County's history. If I could ask, there is one other individual who I haven't mentioned, Patricia Ferris, and I do want to make recognition of Patricia. She came to the county through a defined contract between the county and the federal government. And I was thrilled that through her work on the committee, she secured permanent employment in the Eastern Ontario in Peterborough. So we will be also recognizing Patricia, and that will be sent to her separately. So with that, if I could, through you, Mr. Warden, ask the members of the committee to come forward to be recognized.